A banner appeared at the top of Microsoft Edge in April of 2026. It told users that the browser now launches when you sign into Windows, so it is ready when you want to browse. Underneath it sat a small button reading "No thanks." If you did not press that button, Edge began opening every single time you turned your computer on. Windows Central confirmed the behavior in the Edge beta build. Not a bug, not a glitch, a default. The browser was set to appear at every startup, and the only way to stop it was to notice a banner and actively refuse it. Miss the banner, and the decision was made for you. That is the shape of the thing. Not a switch someone flipped once, a switch that gets set back to the position Microsoft prefers on a machine you paid for. When you change a setting on your computer, you are making a statement about how you want your own property to behave. You turn something off because you did not want it. The reasonable expectation is that it stays off. On Windows, that expectation keeps failing, and it fails through different mechanisms that most people never separate. That is why the generic advice floating around the internet keeps not working. Uninstalling something is not the same defense as blocking it. Turning a toggle off today is not the same protection as refusing it before a new default arrives. The publication Exta looked at the Edge banner and noted a limit worth holding on to. It only appears in the beta version of the browser. If you are running the regular public release, you have not seen it yet. Yet is doing real work in that sentence, because Microsoft has already shown what happens when this kind of thing graduates. In April of 2026, the mandatory Patch Tuesday update did something users had not agreed to. Windows Latest reported that the update automatically launched Microsoft Edge on some machines after the first restart following installation. The browser opened to a page reading "Your Windows update is complete," followed by a prompt to look at 5 of the latest features, and a large blue Next button underneath. There was no close button on the page. You could shut the browser. You could open a different tab, but the page itself gave you no way out on a machine that had just finished installing a security update you were required to accept. Now take that pattern and apply it to the assistant. Copilot has drawn sustained public criticism since it shipped, and Microsoft has publicly responded to that criticism more than once. People uninstall it. It has an entry in the installed apps list. You can right-click it in the Start menu. The removal works. And then it comes back. Windows Latest, reporting in May of 2026, put it plainly. Copilot can sometimes return after a fresh install of Windows, and in rare cases, some Windows updates reinstall the app. Digital Trends covered the same finding and described the constant reappearance of Copilot after major updates or fresh installations as one of the core complaints driving the backlash. So Microsoft built an off switch. In the April 2026 update, a new group policy quietly appeared, named Remove Microsoft Copilot App. You find it under User Configuration, then Administrative Templates, then Windows Components, then Windows AI. That sounds like the end of the story. It is not, and this is the part almost nobody reads. Go to the Microsoft documentation for the underlying policy setting, and the conditions are spelled out. The policy applies only when all of the following are true. Microsoft 365 Copilot and Microsoft Copilot must both be installed. The Copilot app must not have been installed by the user, and the app must not have been launched in the last 28 days. Read that last one again. If you opened Copilot once in the past 4 weeks, even by accident, even to see what it did, the removal policy does not apply to your machine. There is no warning telling you this. There is no message saying the policy was skipped. You set it, you reboot, and the app is still there, and nothing on screen explains why. The documentation also states the policy applies to Windows 11 version 20 4H2 and later on Enterprise, Professional, and Education editions. Home users are not on that list at all, and while that removal policy was being written up as a win, Microsoft was already opening a second door. A Microsoft administrative document spotted by Windows Latest contained the following. Starting June 2026, we will resume the automatic installation of the Microsoft 365 Copilot app to eligible devices with the Microsoft 365 desktop apps. This change simplifies access to Copilot and ensures users can easily discover and engage with productivity-enhancing features. Look at how it arrives. Not through the Microsoft Store, not through Windows Update, through the built-in updater inside the Office applications. No user interaction is required. The app installs by default, and administrators must actively opt out if they do not want it on their devices. The opt-out itself tells you how seriously the choice was meant to be taken. An administrator can block the installation through the Admin Center, but only by going into Customization, then Device Configuration, then Modern Apps Settings, and finding the entry for the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, 4 levels down. For an individual user with no administrator behind them, the situation is worse. You can disable Copilot inside the Office applications by opening File, then Options, then Copilot. But that has to be done in every application separately, and on every device separately. Word on one machine. Excel on the same machine. Outlook on the same machine. Then, the whole sequence again on your laptop. Nobody accidentally completes that process. Which is the point. A default that requires a dozen deliberate steps to refuse is not really offering you a choice at all. It is offering you an obstacle course and calling it consent. The rollout was not gradual either. Windows latest reported the automatic installation was already running on eligible business devices and continuing through the middle of July. And this was a reversal, not a first move. Microsoft had paused automatic Copilot installs earlier in 2026 after user backlash and technical problems. The company made the assistant removable. It rolled back the floating Copilot button that had appeared inside the Office applications and moved the feature back to the ribbon. In some regions, including the United States, it even introduced classic Microsoft 365 subscription plans without Copilot attached for personal and family accounts. Every one of those moves was presented as listening, and then the installs resumed through a pipe that is harder to block than the one people had complained about. Now step back 2 years, because none of this started with the assistant. In June of 2024, the site Neowin found that Microsoft had quietly changed how folder backup worked during Windows setup. The operating system began enabling it by default, without asking permission and without any announcement. Before that change, you had to explicitly activate automatic folder backup yourself, and Microsoft would send you recurring notifications reminding you the feature existed. Sending reminders was apparently judged insufficient, so the reminders were replaced with the outcome. The register confirmed that user data was being pulled into the Microsoft Cloud through folder backup without user consent, and made a second point that matters just as much. Avoiding the whole situation means completing Windows setup without a Microsoft account, and doing that now requires either real technical skill or a corporate account. Provide the account the way Microsoft wants you to, and the backup is already running before you reach the desktop. The site Ask Woody went further and ran clean installations on several separate machines to check the finding independently. At no point did the setup ask. Afterwards, backups were switched on for documents, pictures, desktop, music, and videos. The visible symptom was strange. Green checkmarks appearing next to files. Desktops filling with shortcuts on what should have been a clean installation. Ask Woody noted the commercial logic underneath it, which is that a user with a lot of data in those folders reaches the free storage limit quickly, and the prompt waiting on the other side of that limit is an offer to buy more. Neowin placed it in a pattern of its own. The same period saw OneDrive refuse to let users close it without first explaining why they wanted it closed, a change Microsoft later reversed. Edge began asking users why they had downloaded Chrome. Different features. Same instinct. Make the exit narrow enough, and most people will not bother finding it. Which brings us to October. Microsoft published a post on the Windows It Pro blog in July of 2026 describing settings backup as a new resilience baseline. The language is corporate, the change is not. The default on behavior arrived in the Insider Experimental channel in July, and Microsoft states it takes broad effect for eligible devices when Windows 11 version 26H2 reaches general availability later this year. PC World reported that 26H2 arrives in October, bringing automatic cloud backup of Windows settings, the Microsoft Store update list, and some personal files enabled by default with the ability to disable it. There is one line in the Microsoft post that matters more than everything around it, and it is the line that gives you the actual defense. Microsoft writes that explicit disablement always takes precedence over the default. That is the whole game. A setting you have never touched is fair territory for a new default. A setting you have explicitly turned off is not. The company is telling you in its own documentation that the way to survive a default change is to have already made a decision before the default arrives. And in case anyone thinks the update pipeline is a precision instrument, consider what happened in the other direction. In March of 2025, Microsoft published a support notice acknowledging an issue where the Copilot app was unintentionally uninstalled and unpinned from the taskbar, affecting the updates shipped as KB 5053598 on Windows 11 and KB 5053606 on Windows 10. The same company that keeps putting the assistant back onto machines once removed it from thousands of them by accident and had to ship another update to undo it. 4 things work. In this order. 1. Stop relying on uninstalling. An application removed from the apps list can be restaged by an update. Removal is a state. Policy is a rule. Rules survive, states do not. 2. Set the Copilot policy and check the 28-day condition first. If you are on 24H2 or later with professional or enterprise, open group policy and set the removal policy explicitly. If you have opened the app inside the last 4 weeks, the policy will silently do nothing. Leave it closed for a month, then set it again and verify. 3. Turn settings back up off now, not in October. Doing it today converts your machine from an untouched default into an explicit refusal, and Microsoft has stated in writing that explicit refusal wins. Waiting until 26H2 lands means the default gets applied first and you are undoing it afterwards. 4. Check 4 or 5 settings after every cumulative update, not all of them, the handful you actually care about. 2 minutes, once a month. That habit catches more than any cleanup tool will. None of this requires believing Microsoft is malicious. It only requires noticing which direction the defaults point. The browser opens itself. The assistant reinstalls itself. The backup switches itself on. Every one of those defaults moves toward more Microsoft on your machine, and not one of them moves toward less. The machine is yours. The defaults are not, and the only durable protection is the one Microsoft documented itself. Make the decision explicitly, before the company makes it for you.